Good evening, everybody. Well, welcome to the Entrepreneur's Journey series. My name is Jane Kader. I'm a director of the Institute of Entrepreneurship and Private Capital at London Business School. Today's topic is all about learnings with the benefit of hindsight, and in fact is called What I Wish I Knew 12 Months Ago. A fantastic thing, hindsight. If only we were all privy to it to be able to anticipate what was about to happen. We've got a great lineup of speakers. We have Rosie Bailey, the founder of Nibble, Nasi Rwigema from Umwuga, and Pedro Cabrero from Yayzy. And I'm delighted to say I had the privilege of working with all three of those guys last year when they were in the London Business School Incubator. And the progress that they've made over the last 12 months is really testimony to their resilience, and their ability now to speak of their learnings is fascinating, and I'm sure will be invaluable to you all. So today we're going to run with each of them in turn. They're each going to speak for 10 minutes or so, and then we'll be having questions by way of a panel. So there'll be plenty of opportunity for you to interact with them all and to be able to essentially pick their brains. If you like this series, then please do follow us to stay updated with what we do and when next event's happening. You can connect with us on LinkedIn and Twitter at LBS Entrepreneur. Please do check out our website for upcoming events and resources, and also follow our blog, the LBS Start Hub, which you can see on the screen. You'll be able to find links in the chat box, or for those who are watching the recording, we'll post these in the description too. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Nasi. Nasi, if you would like to take the spotlight.
Thank you so much, Jane. Good evening to you and to everyone on the call today. It's wonderful to be back at an LBS event and lovely to be sharing some of my experiences of this past year with you. And when Jane asked me to be a part of this, I was thinking, wait, 1 year ago, very little's happened. I mean, shouldn't you be asking me about the past 2 or 3 years? And then I remembered that it really was just 1 year ago when we were getting started. So I hope that means there's been a lot of learning. I know there's been a lot of experimentation and embarrassment, but a few things that I did pick up along the way that if I were to do this again, I would make sure I don't repeat. So my name's Nasi and my business is called Umwuga. It's a social network for tradespeople and service industry workers. So we like to describe it as LinkedIn for cleaners, gardeners, and hairstylists. And so with that, we're building a two-sided network. We've got the classic chicken and egg. Do we get the workers in before the employers want to come find them, or should it be the other way around? And these things are always just really hard to spin up, and I think that's been our challenge. And at the end of the day, you are dealing with people. This is business to consumer, and we're trying to get as many of these C's on the platform as possible. And you learn with this kind of business that getting people to do things is really, really difficult. One of the things for me, I think at this stage last year is we were still bootstrapped and the money was running out very quickly. I finished my MBA at LBS in July of last year. And so it was just kind of whatever was left in the bank account post MBA, which wasn't much. I was a solo founder and just kind of doing everything with a very small team and very limited resources. So my approach to the first fundraise was going completely wrong. And Jane's had me crying on the phone over this story, but I took the easy route out. I was practicing my pitch on an angel investor / friend. And at the end of that practice session, he said, I'm in. And I hadn't figured out the valuation. And I just sort of said, well, great. I mean, fundraising done. Let's just wrap this thing up and then all is well. And I didn't have a plan B. And I overly relied on the fact that we had a friendship before we were trying to get into business together. And things went sour. And when they did, I didn't have a backup plan. And we had really kind of gone into this process. It was quite difficult to unwind at that point. And so that was a crucial learning for me, I think, definitely in terms of a fundraise, but in all aspects of your business is always have a plan B. We got to times where we sort of ran out of experiments on how to get customers in. We lost a key sort of outsourced team of ours that was handling all our marketing, and then you ask yourself, what are we going to do next week for all our channels, etc. And so I'm slowly learning that in every aspect of the business and in every way possible, always have a plan B, because things will go wrong. And you don't want to then have to start scrambling from scratch. And in some cases, you really just can't. It was my biggest mistake, which was on a fundraise, and running out of money is the easiest way to kill your startup dreams. Sort of scrape my way through it, and trying to be better this next time around. We're starting our next fundraise. The second one, I've sort of just scribbled down here: have a tribe of mentors. Now, the one thing I wasn't ready for was the emotional journey. You're going into this new venture, you're going to try something. You're going to, at some point, lift your head up and say, hello world, this is me and this is what I'm making. And you can feel extremely self-conscious about that. You're putting yourself out there. I imagine some people back from my past life in private equity looking at, say, a LinkedIn post and saying, oh my gosh, Nasi, what are you doing with this tech stuff? Like, what happened to you, man? And no one's thinking that. But people might be keeping tabs on whether you win or lose, and it becomes one of those immediate topics whenever you catch up with someone. How have you been? How's the business? And then maybe after that, how's the family? And so you're talking about it, you're living it all the time. You're figuring out how to build this thing as you go. You're learning how to be a founder. You're learning how to excel in your industry. You're learning how to be a manager, how to be a CEO. You're learning. And it's helpful to have people that can help you along the way. I had one great mentor in the beginning, and I thought he could help me with everything. But that's not really the case. And we sort of got to a point where his experience sort of capped out. And I was still asking him for help with things that he hadn't done before, and he was doing his best. And so I got to a point where I said, well, I could do with a team of people like him, and not just business related things, but it would also be great to just have someone that I could call and say, is it okay for me to be feeling so self-conscious, so anxious, so just, almost immature about what I'm doing, about whether I'm doing it right, about how people are seeing me, and just how I'm feeling. Feel kind of really, you don't feel great. You don't feel like a powerful CEO. And it's, if you can have someone that has been through that, knows what you're feeling, and can help you, and then someone else that can help you with a financial model, and someone else that can help you with a marketing strategy, it will really take you some ways down the road as an early stage founder, especially if you're a solo founder. The third point I want to leave you with, this one, it is as obvious as it sounds. I was told a billion times, and I probably still need to be told a billion more. It's listen to your customers. And, we did all the good stuff, all of the customer discovery, which is, really diligent in the beginning, speaking to people, finding out that, the problem we're trying to solve is real and these customers experience it, and testing our solutions with them. But I think we stopped listening at some point when, we thought we have something. This is interesting. We're going to build a business on this. And you end up trying to shove your solution down people's throats, being arrogant and saying, they just need to understand that when they see the magic, then they will start doing it my way because it's obviously brilliant. And it took us probably somewhere between 4 and 6 months to just kind of go back to emails and messages where they had been telling us exactly what they wanted from the beginning. And we were saying to ourselves, we're a social network. We're not just another jobs website. So we're not going to have jobs listings. But I think 60% of the people who signed up would send us a message and say something like, where are the jobs? I want a job. How do I find the jobs? How can I get a job? And we literally just had to stop and say, hey, when they sign up, they want to see jobs. They don't want to connect with someone or post an idea or an article they found. They want to see jobs. And it's really just stuff that is that basic. And then the question is, how can I build this jobs experience into my social network experience without losing the community aspect that is really important to what we're trying to build? And as I say, someone's going to have to keep hitting me on the head to say, just listen to what they're saying to you, or go out and speak to them and get some real information. So please be better than I was, and really listen to your customers. Fall in love with the problem that you're trying to solve. Do not fall in love with your solution, even if that means turning into an entirely different business than the really cool, sexy one you have in mind right now. The problem your customer has is what you're doing this for. And the solution that you come up with them might be a fluid and moving thing, but get it from them and make sure it's the one that they want to use.
Thank you, Nasi. Yeah, absolutely fantastic words of wisdom, and ones which I'm sure resonate both with Pedro and Rosie. Rosie, shall we hear from you, and then Pedro, and then we'll open up the floor for questions and essentially get plenty of feedback.
Super. Well, thanks, Nasi. And it is lovely to see both Nasi and Pedro again. I can't emphasize how important it is to have a network of people going through what you're going through, and we were all part of that network. Sadly, during COVID, I think we only got to the pub once, but yeah, exactly. It's very important. So I'm Rosie. We were in the London Business School Incubator last year, myself and Jamie. We're both London Business School alum. And we met actually and discussed the idea, and that's how it was born here on campus, as it were. Nibble is a negotiation chatbot with a strong sense of humour. And if you fancy pitting yourself against the smartest, wittiest AI you can find on the street, go to nibble.shop and have a go on our demo and see if you can negotiate yourself a special deal. We launched our app halfway through the incubator in March 2021 and eked out on one customer, maybe two customers. And then, I don't know, it all started unlocking over the summer. We're now negotiating on about £1 million worth of transactions every month, doing about 150 negotiations a day and growing at 50% per month. So we're getting quite excited about what we can achieve. In terms of my lessons, my first one is quite similar to something Nasi said. That the first and possibly the most important thing is it's all about the people. I strongly believe that you shouldn't go it on your own. And if you're a founder, you should try and find a co-founder. And to be honest, Jamie found me much more than I found him. And we are complementary and different. We are capable of having a hot debate about topics and not losing a friendship and a working partnership. And we're good at different things. And that is just brilliant. And it gives you a huge amount of confidence in your own decisions to have someone to bounce ideas off and have someone to share the ups and downs with. So that's the first point. It's all about the people, and the most important people are the founders. But then there's also key hires. And I didn't realize how hard it was to find the right people, but also sometimes how easy it was to find the right people, and how important it was to focus on the quality of people that you worked with. And we've been very lucky. I mean, I can tell you, we haven't worked with someone that I wouldn't call on again. We've had a stream of fantastic interns, really amazing interns that we've learned stuff from. And our permanent hires are just the best. And we continue to focus on making sure that the only people that we work with are people who are really smart, really diligent, really switched on, but also have the right kind of ability to be lighthearted, see the funny side. We've got a copywriter who writes all the copy for Nibble and lives the dream of pretending to be a smart AI chatbot every day. So, there's all sorts of roles you can find. And within that, Nasi said a tribe of mentors. I couldn't agree more, Nasi. You need within that, it's all about the people. You need cheerleaders, and you need people who will pick you up and go, "Yeah, this is a bit of a setback, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And the fundamental idea is brilliant, and keep going. And that's not always the people in your operational team. That's sometimes people at home. It's sometimes people in your formal mentor or senior advisor group, but it's often people on the periphery of your network. And we've networked like crazy for the last year, and we will continue to network like crazy for the last year. One of our most important senior advisors was a chance encounter, a part of my periphery network. I got someone to introduce us, and then it sort of went really well, and that person has been instrumental in introducing us to our first clients. So the only thing, if there's only one thing you take away from what I've said, it's all about the people. It's all about the people, and that's what makes it fun. I mean, there's no point working with people you don't enjoy working with. And then two smaller points that are easier to explain. The second point is it's always going to happen a bit slower. Jane's going to laugh at me. I was constantly giving her targets that we were going to miss horribly, and that's fine. That's fine. It's always good to have ambition, but if you want to keep motivated and keep the team motivated, set small targets, small steps, small goals, celebrate the little wins, celebrate completing a sprint on development, celebrate getting somebody phoning you back when you're cold calling. It's small things, and you've got to celebrate those wins because it is an exponential thing. And a mathematician was interviewed recently. I don't know if anyone's heard of Hannah Fry. I'm a big fan of her. She's a celebrity mathematician, if such a thing exists. And she says if there's only one way to explain exponential, it's that you don't see the truck coming in the 15 minutes before it hits you, which is, I thought it was quite a good way. And then my last point is equity splits. Everybody tells you this is important and difficult. It is important and difficult. Don't underestimate the importance of getting that right and having an honest conversation as early as is sensible on what the right equity split between the founding team is. People say it to you and you say, yes, that's fine. But it is an emotional thing, and I think you have to recognize that. So mainly, it's all about the people, Jane. Mainly, that's my key takeaway.
Thank you so much, Rosie. That's great. Great points to add on to Nasi's. Pedro, pressure's on you now to come up with 3 completely different ones, of course. So
yeah, I couldn't agree more with Nasi and Rosie today. Definitely very insightful lessons learned. So it's going to be challenging to say something more relevant than them. But anyways, I'll give it a go. Quick intro. I'm Pedro Cabrero. I'm LBS Masters in Finance 2019. I'm also a teacher assistant at LBS. I do the workshops of Python, R, and machine learning. So you might see me around in campus, perhaps. I'm also co-founder at Yayzy. I started Yayzy right after LBS, but also right before COVID. So it has been a fun and a volatile ride. Yayzy is an app that helps you track your personal carbon footprint. It links to your bank account and gives you a real-time reading of the carbon footprint of your spending, of your purchases. And Yayzy helps you reduce and compensate your impact on the planet. So it's a legit technology. We're using open banking to link to your bank account. We're using machine learning to classify your transactions, and more than 20 years of data science of carbon footprint accounting to come up with the most exact carbon footprint estimation. So it's pretty cool. I would encourage you to get it. We've received 1.5 million pounds in funding from VCs and crowdfunding. We're 15 employees so far and growing by the week. And as Jane said, I had the fortune to be part of the LBS Incubator last 2020-2021, which was an amazing cohort. But as Rosie said, we just get to meet once in the pub. Everything was virtual. But anyways, I got a lot of lessons learned. However, I was told to focus on just 3. So I will tell you the 3 that resonates the most for me. and that will help you reduce the risk of entrepreneurship. So the first lesson, perhaps very in line with Rosie, is to hire senior people in early stages. And senior is very relevant for this. Most entrepreneurs fall in the trap of hiring an army of interns, and in my experience, is not the way to go. It's super important for most businesses, but particularly for tech businesses. We started developing the Yayzy app with junior talent. It was just my other co-founder, which is senior, but then junior developers and junior designers. And I myself, I've got background in finance, not in product management. So we did all possible mistakes, literally. And we had to redo it all again. So it took us about a year or so, 8 months to hire the right team. Fortunately, we feel that right now we've got the right team, and 6 months or more to rebuild the app. So all these rookie mistakes drain a lot of resources, valuable time, money, and focus. And today in tech businesses, the end customer quality expectations are super high. So people are expecting apps that are super sleek, that solve customer problems very fast, products of very high quality. So if you do something that it's very like an MVP that it's not ready for the end market, you're gonna hit a lot of walls. So in our case, we recently hired a chief product officer from Revolut, designers, senior designers from one of our competitors, senior marketing and community people, and so on. And this will help you mitigate the execution risk. So if you're thinking of hiring interns for the most important business functions, I think that it's a bad strategy. Interns are great, but not for key business functions. So the learning for me, the lesson is whenever you're doing something that requires a lot of skill and a product that is expected to be of high quality, if you're dealing with personal banking data, or you're doing job to be done that it has to be perfect all the time, like sending money, like transactions and so on, it's better to do it with people that are experienced. And getting talented people early on your journey is super important. That's something that I would like to share with you. The second lesson would be to focus on proving one metric with a small group of customers. And once you nail that business metric, then you focus on traction and growth. So the key here is not to fall in the trap of trying to achieve growth if you have not proven or nailed one business metric. So for me, it's been 2 years since we've incorporated the company, and most of the time we've been focused on the wrong thing. Too much time spent on fundraising, more than 8 months. Also, like 6 months of trying to generate traction and growth without having product market fit. So basically, we've been swimming against the tide. So you have to figure out one simple business model equation and optimize it. And that business model equation is linked to the problem that you're looking to solve, and that's different for every business. For Yayzy, which is an app that helps you reduce your carbon footprint, is the percentage of customers that are carbon neutral. And to give you a few examples, for WhatsApp is message sent. For YouTube is videos watched. For eBay is gross merchandise volume. For Airbnb is nights booked. But however, there's a caveat in this North Star metric for early stage companies. For instance, if you focus on WhatsApp on message sent, you can achieve growth by growing your number of users, or trying to increase them than the number of messages that one user sends. So it's key that you focused on the second, the percentage of customers that are performing your action or your job to be done. And once you will optimize that, you look for growth. And that's something that we failed to do since the beginning. And now on our second year, we're obviously working on it. But basically, this takes a lot of time. And if you focus on this simple business model equation and optimize it, then funds and traction will follow naturally, not all the way around. This way, you will reduce product market fit risk. And the last lesson that I want to share with you is that fundraising is a numbers game. So it's linked to Nasi's point of not putting all your eggs in one basket. So we've been very lucky with fundraising, fortunately, because we've done a lot of pitching. After my Master in Finance program at LBS, I pitched to 4 early stage VCs. I got 3 no's and 1 yes. So basically that was like a 25% hit rate, which was pretty good, pretty okay. So raised 120K from Antler, a VC that invests in tech companies early stage, developed the product. And after 6 months, we pitched to VCs in London. That was basically beginning of 2020. And we've got 19 no's and 1 maybe. And then February, March 2020, COVID hit, and that maybe turned into a no. So VCs at that time were looking to portfolio companies, and we had to keep going somehow. So we spent 6 months pitching to angels and VCs in Europe. And I don't remember how many pitches we had, but we were averaging around 1 pitch per day. And basically, within this 6 month time frame, all VCs said no, and 3 angels said perhaps. So then we decided to shift our funding strategy, and we went for a crowdfunding campaign with seeders. So the crowdfunding campaign takes a lot of time to run and to plan. So we started like 3 months before. We did a video. We aligned the angels. And we started the campaign with 4 angel commitments for £100,000. It was a successful campaign since the beginning because we did all our job of reaching out and a very cool video and landing page. And we raised our target of £250,000 in the first day of launching. And over a month, we totaled over £700,000 from more than 1,000 investors. And then after that, we were very lucky that a few angel syndicates followed. We did a follow-on round of £500,000 from a few angel syndicates from Europe and US. So basically, we were 8 months pitching, getting no's, and then in 1 month and a half, our luck changed drastically. So the advice is to open as many doors as possible and to be flexible. You end up getting money from sources that you never anticipated. So there's a lot of capital in the market for strong entrepreneurs, and it's just a matter of increasing your odds. So that's all from me, and hope you check out the Yayzy app and add me on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Pedro. So you've heard from all 3, and well, I'm going to actually load everybody up for the spotlight. I'd like to turn a couple of things around. So Nasi, Nasi and Rosie, you were both talking about hiring people and getting the right mentors in place. Nasi, you were talking particularly about mentors. I mean, what did you look for in a mentor when you were talking about getting that tribe in? You said that you wanted mentors on both personal and business level. But did they have different attributes, or are you looking for particular backgrounds, people who knew your business? What was it that really would enable you to put trust and faith into a mentor?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jane. I think what I'm recommending this evening is to be intentional about the kinds of mentors that you'd like. So to think about the areas where you're weak or need help, and then go out and find those kinds of people. I didn't necessarily do that, but I did meet a lot of interesting people along the way. The best mentors would almost open the door to you asking for their help, but they would never push themselves on you. And that was great for me because it told me that they don't have any motive other than, they're speaking to me, what I'm doing sounds interesting, and they've perhaps been through this before and they just really want to help. It was important for me that they had had similar experiences before. Otherwise, it just becomes sort of advice from someone who's trying to be nice to you. And you want to go into the weeds with some of these things and tell them what you're struggling with and hope that they can really help you through. So experience would be good, but then a general attitude of, I want to help you because your mission sounds super interesting. And beyond that, nothing else really.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Rosie, you spoke very much all about the people. I mean, did you enlist mentors as well as just having a good team on a sort of on a payroll basis?
No, it's everything. It's everything. I think on the mentor side, in fact, we've just taken on 2 senior advisors, which are, if you like, mentors who are now a permanent part of the team, if that makes sense. And for me, that progression, it was really important. It's quite interesting to see who's going to give you a second meeting. There's a lot of people who will say something nice and be encouraging, but there aren't so many people who will give you a second meeting. So I look for people who immediately give you a thumbs up on social media. I mean, this doesn't cost you anything and it matters a lot to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, and actually, if you could be bothered to do that, or follow me on social media, or do you see what I mean? Like, it's not much, but it shows that you're reaching out. And so the people that we've really got involved in are the people who offered those second meetings and followed up. And the people who replied to my email when I said thanks for meeting, and the people who said, I mentioned I might be able to introduce you to so-and-so, here's their email address, or better still, they email so-and-so and say, you've never seen anything as cool as this. They don't just go, oh, would you like to meet Rosie? They give you a proper plug.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost much.
So they're really gunning for you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Pedro, would you suggest there's a huge difference between having a mentor and having an advisor? I mean, how many of you guys have got a board of advisors distinct from mentors? Pedro, I'll let you go first.
So a board of advisor is something that you have to set up definitely. They serve as a sense check whether the strategy and whether what you're thinking in the startup is going in the right direction. Setting up a board of advisor takes a lot of time and it's a lot of admin to do. So obviously there's a stage whether you need one, but obviously early stages you cannot set up you cannot commit to set up a board of advisors. But we've been very fortunate to get mentors all along our journeys before incorporating the company and through all this 2-year journey from multiple sources, from Antler, the VC that I started with, from the UK Global Entrepreneurship Program, from LBS itself, from the LBS Incubator, from like personal contacts. So it's always good to open as many doors as possible, and then as Nasi mentioned, picking the ones that resonate the most with the job functions that you don't have or you're aiming to fill in your company.
Nasi, did you use mentors distinct from advisors, or I mean, what's been the structure that you took on board?
Functionally what they did probably straddles both, but I always saw them as mentors. I never approached someone to say, would you be an advisor to this business? It was always, you've got tremendous experience in this regard, and we're going through that now, or we will in the future. Can I call you when I have a question or when I need help? So I definitely see those as mentors. But if we look back and we think of the kind of time and that some of them have spent and how regular we would speak, and it almost became formal, they really did become advisors in some regard.
Sure, sure.
But one thing, Jane, that I'll mention is you do want to leave some behind at some point. They stop being useful. The stage of your business moves on and their experience is no longer super relevant. So
I think that's a good point.
Whether you have them on a board or just someone that you reach out to, have a way of moving on when they're no longer helping you.
I think that's a good point. Having looked at so many pitch decks, the one thing which has always stood out is that typically when there's advisors in place, then they're typically big names with very, very relevant experience, as opposed, and that's why they're essentially brought in to actually sort of highlight the support from somebody with relevant industry experience. Okay, Rosie, you were speaking about, again, we're talking about the people here, talking about how you selected a team, etc. So there's a question that's come in, which I think is relevant to this. We're talking about what non-founder experience do you believe is more relevant to a potential founder, either being a VC or being part of someone else's startup?
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought someone else's startup is probably more relevant, because what you want is someone who says, oh, I've seen this before, or a friend of mine did this growth hack, or I did this, or I know a good accountant or IP lawyer that would give us some quick advice on this, just problem solving, getting rid of some of those kind of simple things. Somebody's also asked about insights on doing a startup not directly related to your previous career background, sort of linked question. I was a banker before this, so I wasn't doing anything related to this. And actually, I'm trading quite heavily on a maths degree I did more than 20 years ago to try and persuade people that we know what we're doing on some of the AI we're building, which we do, but it helps. So you don't dig around in your CV for credibility from other places.
Absolutely. Yeah. Pedro, did you have relevant experience?
No, I was also coming from the finance industry. I was an equity sales and trader and investment banking 5 years before doing tech. So definitely doing something completely different now. FinTech and climate tech.
And what about you, Nasi?
So I was in renewables. We were developing the power plants. So not at all related to social networking or recruitment, but the idea came from the experience where we were trying to hire low-skilled people in remote regions to build these solar power plants, hydropower plants, and just struggling and wondering why there wasn't a better way to do it. So the idea came from there, but the experience was completely different.
So there's a question for you. I mean, with the benefit of hindsight, do you wish that you would have started a business where you did have direct industry and sector experience? Do you feel like it actually did impact your ability to succeed? I mean, obviously you've all done tremendously well over the last year since launch, but would it have been easier had you have had first-hand experience in that sector previously?
I'll continue, Jane. I want to say yes and no. The no is that having experience in an industry, having worked for a company where someone trained you and told you how things work in this industry, can be a crutch when you're trying to innovate. It's quite nice to approach a problem with completely clean eyes and just try and come up with a solution that makes sense because it makes sense, not because you've seen it before or trying to do some pattern match. The yes part is, I just think, if I could start again now, I would do things so much better. So any kind of experience, even just general founder experience, would have been helpful. But I worry that the domain expertise may have sort of hampered the innovation process.
Oh, yeah, very honest.
For me, definitely having domain expertise is something that will reduce the risk of entrepreneurship and will increase the odds of creating a product that will be successful in the long run. But obviously, so many founders start companies without the domain expertise. So I would recommend going through the entrepreneur journey either way, But if you happen to have domain expertise, then that's a great check mark for you and for VCs for fundraising as well.
Okay. So here's a good question that's come in. How important is it to have a technical founder from the outset? I mean, that's technical expertise which can be brought in at any point. Would you make that person a founder? Would you give them some vested equity, or would you just contract out? Rosie, what did you do, having built this bot?
So it's a bit of a hybrid, to be honest. Some of the underlying algorithm, it was a hybrid. Like, we contracted out, but I took a lot of responsibility for design. I can't code Python, but I can design how I want it to work, if that makes sense. And so I would say in that sense, we kept the technicals very, very close. And then the build, we outsourced some of the stuff that was quite standard about kind of basically building a website and effectively a bit like building an app. But we kept in-house the business of tying the quite smart algorithm to the quite smart chatbots to the quite standard app, if you like. And that we contracted to somebody we knew really well. And actually, as it happened, after he contracted with us for 6 months, he said it was the most innovative and exciting project he'd had to work on in for a long time, and asked to join us as a founder, and we moved into an equity partner.
What about you, Nasi? I know the answer, but I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we contracted out. And I think the question is the building of the thing the hard part, or is it the defining of the thing? You know, and we're building a social network. These things exist. Anyone that knows how to code should know how to build the thing. So we weren't solving a hard technical problem. We were trying to come up with a user experience and perhaps a business model that would be interesting to someone who used it. So it's worked. We're still with the same team that built our first real MVP, and they feel like they're my guys. You know, a few of them are dedicated to us, so it's the same as having them in-house or having them almost as founders. But it works for us.
Yeah, but you're right, actually. So we see ourselves as a technical company first and foremost. So that kind of guts of it is quite important to have inside. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's what's your business model? What's your USP?
Yeah, for Yayzy, we had a chief technology officer, a full stack developer, quite a technical person and very experienced. And I would definitely try to recommend, if you can find a technical person, to join as co-founder, and if it has a cultural fit and basically it has interest in what you're building, it's always great to have somebody on board on the co-founding team.
Nasi and Rosie, I mean, did you give your techies any equity, or just paying them?
Our CTO is an equity holder.
He is, yes.
Yeah.
And no equity for ours.
No equity. Okay. Rosie, let's talk about equity. What tool did you use? And this resonates with a question here that we've got in chat as well. Did you use a particular tool to carve up the pie, or how have you allocated?
To be honest, it was mostly an honest discussion, but I have heard of some quite good tools. There's something called sharing the pie. Slicing the pie. If you do a Google search for it,
yeah.
And it talks about, and what I quite liked about that, because I'm quite sort of methodical thinker, it helped me rationalize my arguments for where we should be and what was fair, because there's different contributions, like who came up with the idea, who helped build the MVP so that we could actually test it, who brings the connections and the connectivity that can actually make it grow, you know. And there's different people bring different things to the table, and unfortunately I think it's human nature to perhaps over recognize your own contribution in this argument, but maybe I'm being unfair. And so it's quite useful to have some of those things, those arguments set out quite rationally, so that everybody can get on board on the same basis.
Mm-hmm. Did any of you use slicing pie? Or there's another one which is vested as well. Vested I brought into the incubator, if you remember, but There's a couple of tools. I think Seed Legals as well. They have a tool.
Seed Legals offer a tool. Vested offer a tool. We're looking at Vested now, but a bit later to put in place an option package, because we have the founders, but we need to put in place an option package for future hires and stuff, and we need to do that next.
What about you, Pedro? What have you used?
We're using Seed Legals, but at the beginning we split the shares evenly across the 3 co-founders. I'm more of the opinion of, like having something small, having a small pie of something really big rather than having a big pie of something really small. So literally, and all the employees at Yayzy have shares. So basically, that's the way that we align incentives, and everyone shares the upside. And in regards to a question of the rule of thumb for startup equity dilution, I remember in the very interesting course we had at LBS of financing the entrepreneurial journey. Normally, you would like to that the initial founding team keeps around 50% of the company after Series A. So basically, you have to give around, or you can give around 50% of your shares on pre-seed, seed, and perhaps another follow, like a bridge round to get to Series A. So if you give 25% of equity to the VC in pre-seed, then you have like 25 left. So basically, it's a rule of thumb would be anywhere between 15 to 25%. Every stage, and that's up to the person who negotiates the term sheet, valuations, comparable valuations in the market, and also the execution, the milestones that you've reached. So it's a bit of a combination of that, but obviously try to negotiate 15%, so that whenever you are on Series A, you've got 5% of the company.
Thank you, Pedro. Interesting question from our part. What strategy did you put in place to retain highly skilled hiring that you have for your startup, apart from obviously increasing their salaries? I mean, does this go back to equity, where you drip feed them more equity out of the equity pool?
You don't have to always pay them a high price. You can negotiate a deal, whether it's attractive, and your best tool is to use your capital structure and issue employee stock options to incentivize talented people to join your mission.
Are you all of the same opinion? Done the same thing?
I think for us, Jane, and I can't really speak as formally as Pedro. They do a phenomenal job. We have strategically hired people from regions that we can afford, and we just really look for gems. So we have a bunch of people who were tricky to justify when we made the hire, and we had to spend some time really polishing them. But they're phenomenal now. So I think just out of necessity, picking people, Ghana, India, South Africa, with salaries we can manage, not super incredible CVs before we got them, but probably really valuable moving on from us if they ever do. And then just giving them work that they're really interested in, keep them excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think keep them excited, certainly, and engaged, of course. Right.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, our team seem to be motivated by wanting to do something new and do something different. Certainly the dev team side, they feel like they're inventing something new, and that's really, really motivating. Jane, I'd just say we missed Lawrence Evans's low code question. I think Lawrence is still on the call.
I am.
Absolutely.
So Lawrence, I'm by no means a techie, but I do understand that our business is built on the technology, and that's our USP, and that's our competitive moat. So we can't scrimp on it. So we didn't low code, but that didn't stop us using off-the-shelf pieces as we built it. So for example, we're building a chatbot, Amazon Web Services have something called Lex, which is a chatbot technology. We built it on the back of that, but we did outgrow it much faster than I expected, and we ended up substituting it with real stuff. So I guess where there are low code, no code solutions, yes, but I would imagine if you're a tech focused business, you're going to swap them back out again quite quickly. But it does get you to market, and if your aim is MVP and customer testing, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so by disclosure, we're a global thought leadership firm. I'm also a founder of my own company, but we've just published for Mendix, a Siemens company, a report called The State of Low Code, looking at global trends in low code. And one of the advantages of low code is, you hit on it, Rosie, is the ability to scale very quickly from design to execution. So maybe not in the initial stage, but once you have your key idea, the ability to be able to bolt on lots of modules very quickly. And, we're all looking for ways to scale more quickly. That's just one of them. There are other ways of scaling, but it's something to think about for the next stage.
And certainly, I think people are pointing to platforms like Shopify that let you do that. And we've got a Shopify app, and that,
right.
I mean, we can install all of our product on a Shopify website. I think our record is 4 minutes, but the average is 8.
It's pretty impressive.
James has just asked a general question, one for me, I guess, about how do we participate in the incubator. If you're an alum of London Business School and you've graduated in the last 3 years, then do feel free to drop me a line. I'll just put my email in the chat, and I can certainly discuss the parameters for application with you directly. If I may, I'm going to have the last question. I like having the last words. To all of you 3 guys, if you knew then what you know now, would you have done it? Pedro?
Yes, it's a painful yes, because obviously there's been a lot of uncertainty and a lot of learnings, but definitely it's on the correct side of capitalism.
Excellent. Great. Nasi?
Yeah, absolutely, Jane. I heard somewhere that the 3 things a founder has to do at this stage: 1, don't fight with a co-founder. I don't have one, so that's okay. 2, get to product market fit. That's what I do every day, and it's fun, so I love that. And 3, don't die. And we're still alive, so if I knew that a year ago, then it would be worth continuing. So absolutely.
Excellent. Keep up the great work. And Rosie?
Yes, with bells on, loving it.
Wonderful. Great. Well, 3 fantastic examples of entrepreneurship at London Business School. It was a pleasure working with you last year. It's been fantastic hosting you this evening. Thank you for your honesty. It's so easy for entrepreneurs to get up and speak about all the things that went right. And sometimes it just takes that real sort of special person to be so honest and open and to share those learnings with our wonderful audience today. So thank you really so much, all 3 of you. And thank you to all the participants. I hope that you've enjoyed this session. Thank you for joining. Please do join for the rest of the series, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Many thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jane. See you guys.
Thank you, Jane.
Cheers.